You know that feeling when you're at your desk? It's like there's this invisible tether holding you to your computer.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really move because, well, everything, your monitor, your mouse, your keyboard, it all has to be plugged into that big, noisy tower under your desk.
Yeah, that's the classic problem with a workstation,
Yeah,
right? You are literally chained to the hardware.
exactly. But what if you could take that tether and just stretch it? And I mean, really stretch it. What if you could move your whole dual monitor setup almost 1,000 feet away from the PC itself?
Without any lag or loss in quality.
Yeah.
Well, that is pretty much the core promise of the device we're looking at today. It's the NTI STIPUSBD-L-DH.
Which, you have to admit, sounds less like a product and more like a randomly generated Wi-Fi password.
It does. Let's just call it the NTI extender for our purposes.
Okay, good. So let's unpack it. Normally, if I want to just extend my monitor, I run into a wall pretty fast. A DVI or an HDMI cable starts to get glitchy after, what, maybe 20 feet?
Roughly, yeah. You hit the limits of physics pretty quickly. But the real aha moment here is that this unit doesn't use those cables. It uses standard CT6 or CT7.
So network cables, the kind that are probably already in the walls of your office building.
Exactly. And that just changes the entire equation. You're not running some specialized thick video cable through a ceiling.
You're just using the building's existing infrastructure.
Precisely. And by using 2 of those cables, this little box can push 2 full 1080p DVI monitors up to 472 feet away.
144 meters.
Yeah. And just as important, it's not only video. The spec sheet shows 4 USB ports on the other end.
So my whole workflow comes with me. Keyboard, mouse, a flash drive.
Right. It supports USB 2.0 and 1.1. So to you, the user, it feels like the computer's right there. But in reality, the actual machine could be locked away in a secure, climate-controlled server room.
Okay, so that solves the distance problem. But usually these kinds of KVM extenders are just a one-to-one deal, right? A straight line.
A point-to-point connection, yes.
So am I running a separate wire for every single desk all the way back to the server room? That seems messy.
You could, but you don't have to. And this is where it goes from being just an extender to a full-on network solution. You can connect both ends to a managed gigabit network switch.
Ah, so once it hits the switch, it's all just data packets on the network.
Exactly. And that does 2 really cool things. First, the switch acts like a repeater, so it basically doubles your range to 944 feet.
Wow.
But maybe more importantly, it unlocks what they call many-to-many connections. You can create a whole matrix.
So multiple users can access different computers on the same network.
Yeah. It turns a simple cable problem into a much more flexible network solution. And that networking piece is what lets you do the video wall setups.
I saw that in the documentation. You can do configurations from, what, 1x2 all the way up to a 4x4 wall of screens?
All running from one source. And a little detail that really stood out to me was the screen rotation. You can turn displays 180 or even 270 degrees.
So you're not stuck with just a standard horizontal desktop. You could do some really creative digital signage, like in a lobby.
Absolutely.
Huh.
But, whenever you introduce this much flexibility, this networking, you create a new problem.
Who has the cursor?
Right. If you and I are both connected to the same machine from different desks, can we both start dragging windows around?
Chaos.
It would be. So the system has 2 modes to handle that. The first one is exclusive mode. Pretty simple. Only one remote unit gets USB control at a time. First come, first served.
Okay. That makes sense for security.
And then for teamwork, there's sharing mode. It allows multiple remote stations to share control, and it recognizes up to 5 different USB devices at once.
That sounds pretty seamless, but I have to assume there are some trade-offs when you route everything through a network switch instead of a direct cable.
There's one specific one to be aware of, yeah. It's about audio. Speakers work fine over the network, but the microphone input, that only works in a direct point-to-point connection.
Oh, interesting. So if your setup relies on, say, VoIP calls or something, you can't run the mic feed through the switch.
Correct. You'd need a separate solution for that, maybe a USB microphone, to get around that specific port limitation. It's a small detail, but a critical one depending on your use case.
Good to know. So when you zoom out, what we're really talking about is a device that lets you, well, it's like a brain transplant for your desk. You're separating the noisy hardware from the human interface.
And that enables silent workspaces, secure server rooms, these massive creative displays, all using the Ethernet cabling that's already everywhere.
It fundamentally changes the geography of where work gets done.
It really does. And, that kind of leads to a bigger question to leave you with. If we can so seamlessly move the user interface almost 1,000 feet away from the actual hardware, At what point does the physical location of the computer just stop mattering at all for most of us?
If the tether is invisible and basically infinite, are we ever really at our computers anymore? Something to think about. That's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening.